This episode of the Just John podcast is brought to you by the random fact that the word referring to half a computer byte is the nibble. What up, homies? I'm your host, John Medina, and this, my fine ladies and gentlemen, is the Just John podcast, episode 22.
Allow myself to introduce myself.
Today on the show, a YouTube recommendation: Coca-Cola is expensive, PewDiePie is the king, hot girls wanted, and more.
Do the chickens have large talons?
So if you go to YouTube and you search for the YouTube channel called Crazy PT, it's amazing. It's awesome. It's a bunch of Russian guys. Actually, I think it's really just two Russian guys, but I'm not 100% sure. And they've got to be engineers because what they do is they build awesome stuff out of basic stuff. On one of the YouTube videos, they build a semi-automatic rubber band gun out of a hanger, popsicle sticks, and a hot glue gun. They use a hot glue gun a lot. They also make a car that's battery powered that will actually move out of a soda bottle, a hot glue gun, and an old hard drive from a computer. It's really cool. It's really interesting. And one of these days when I have enough time, I'm really going to try to make something that they make, but I'm no engineer. And so it probably won't even work out for me, even though I have the instructions literally there in my face. They're really cool guys, though. Go check them out. It's Crazy PT on YouTube. They make all kinds of awesome stuff. Some of it's props from, different video games and movies and stuff. It's really amazing.
Because drugs are bad, okay?
If you've been keeping up with Keurig, the company that makes the coffee, Keurig's been going through a lot of issues this past year. They tried to do the DRM thing with the new cups on the Keurig 2.0, which basically just meant it had a little code on it that the Keurig read, and if it was a verified K-cup, it would make it. If it wasn't, it wouldn't work, because people were going and buying the refill yourself cups and then putting their own types of coffee. Like, you buy the big bag or the big can of coffee, you'd put it in the fake plastic K-cup and then put it in the Keurig and it would work. And so they were trying to fight that because they wanted people to go buy the actual K-cups. And it really, really upset people. It got people so mad and they made such a fuss about it that Keurig actually stopped it from happening. So they did a firmware update essentially that would make it to where you could use the fake K-cups again. They've recently released something called the Keurig Kold. So what this is it's the same concept as the coffee, except it's for cold beverages. So sodas and different kinds of infused waters and things like that. And it uses the water, and then the cup has these ridges in the bottom. You have to line it up, and those ridges will do the carbonation, different things like that. The device is really cool, but it's kind of expensive. It's $300 to $400 depending on the model you get and where you buy it. Now they have different drinks in there, but one of the ones that they're marketing heavily is the Coca-Cola one. It's branded by Coca-Cola. It's actually the Coca-Cola recipe. And if you put it in there and you make it, from what I've heard and seen, it tastes like Coca-Cola. The thing about it is, though, it is expensive, crazy expensive. Like, why would you pay this much for Coca-Cola when you can go buy a 12-pack of cans, a 24-pack of cans? You can go buy bottles, whatever you want. Heck, you can go to the gas station and get a 32-ounce for $1. But instead, they're trying to sell these cups for a $4.99 for a pack of 4. That's $1.25 for, I think it makes 12 ounces. So that's $1.25 for a can of Coca-Cola. The average price, if you go to the grocery store and buy it, you're paying about anywhere from 25 to 35 cents a can. And that's the same amount of soda that's in a can. It's just not logical. I mean, you can get 3 times the amount of soda at a gas station in the fountain. But it never shocks me that people will just buy something that's super expensive that you can get a lot cheaper in different forms just to say that they've got it. It's one of those, like, I've got money and I know I've got money and I'm going to show all of you that I've got money situations. And you know what I have to say to them?
I'm gonna put my nutsack on your drum set.
If you're looking for something to watch on Netflix, man, have I got the movie for you. It's called Hot Girls Wanted, and it's produced by Rashida Jones, the chick from Parks and Rec and The Office. And basically what it's about is it's about amateur porn girls. Actually, it's about the porn industry kind of in general, but it follows a bunch of amateur porn girls. So the basis is you're following this guy who's like their manager, aka a pimp, but he gets paid less than like the typical pimps that you think about. He makes, I think, 10% of what they make is his management fee or something like that. Anyway, so basically what he does is he lives in Florida and he posts on Craigslist and says free flight to wherever for modeling, blah, blah, blah. They contact him. He kind of tells them that he wants them to do porno. He'll pay for their ticket out there. They go out there, they live with him, and then they go shoot a bunch of porns. And it just follows the different girls and it gives you a lot of stats. It's just really interesting and you learn a lot of stuff and you hear what the girls have to say about a lot of the stereotypes that people say about actresses in porn. They say, you know, oh, they have daddy issues, or does their family know what they do, or they're taken advantage of, or they're not doing it because they want to, they're doing it because they were forced to, and different things like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure some of that happens, but this documentary is just really eye-opening about the whole situation. It's really interesting, and I say go check it out. Of course, it's definitely not something to watch if your kids are around, so, you know, viewer discretion is advised.
You know, when I see a car like this, first thing I do is I say, would you look at this?
Pokemon is turning 20 this year. They're having a lot of celebrations for this huge event, 20-year anniversary of this game and TV show that had a huge impact on me personally. I spent countless hours on the Game Boy playing Pokemon. I watched like the whole original series. I watched probably all the way up to like, I'd say whatever season that the character for Ash changed his voice. That was about the time that I started not watching the show as much. I don't remember what season it was, maybe like 11 or something around there. And I played all the games all the way up to Ruby and Emerald, I believe, were the last ones I played, and I collected the cards. I actually have the 150 original set. I sold it on Craigslist. Sometimes I regret it, but that's not the point of this whole story. So a lot of the plans that they have. Pokemon Company has announced a number of upcoming promotions, starting with Super Bowl ad that will air during the game on February 7th. Let's just talk about the fact that the Pokemon Company is gonna drop the $4.5 million for a 30-second ad for Pokemon. They didn't really talk about what the ad's going to look like, and it won't be promoting any specific game or movie. It's just going to kind of be about Pokemon. And they said that it will encourage fans to train on, which is kind of cool. And the only thing I wish that Pokemon Go was coming out this year, because as far as we know, it's not slated to come out this year at all. It's kind of, I guess, on the back burner. But wouldn't it be amazing if they announced on that commercial that Pokemon Go was coming out and it was kind of a live action Pokemon trailer style type thing, and then at the end it, encouraged everyone to train on? Anyway, so after the Super Bowl on February 27th, a special edition of the new Nintendo 3DS bundle is going to come out. It'll have changeable faceplates featuring art from the first two original games, which were red and blue, which I had blue, I had yellow, I had gold, and then I had I had sapphire, and then I had leaf green. I had leaf green and fire red, I believe. But anyway, the handheld is also going to feature versions of both the games. So if you buy it, it's going to have digital copies of Red and Blue pre-installed on the 3DS, which is pretty cool. There's also a bunch of other promotions that they've got slated for this year. They're going to re-release some of the hard-to-find amiibos like Charizard and Jigglypuff. They're going to have a new expansion for the trading card game. I couldn't even imagine. I'm sure there's somebody out there that has full sets of every single generation of the trading card game, but I just could not imagine how many cards that is. The Pokemon trading card game is launching at the end of February, and then they're also going to digitally release 12 different movies on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon. So I talked about this earlier kind of with the Pokemon Go because I said it's not coming out this year, but the weird fact is that Pokemon's not putting out any games this year. I guess it's because they want to focus on the 20-year anniversary. and not worry so much about promoting a new game, because if you have to promote both Pokemon in general and a new game, it's going to kind of just get all mixed up and combobulated, and they want to spend this time celebrating. I mean, 20 years is quite a long time for one brand to be around, you know? So I guess they're really focusing on that, and they just want people to know the love of Pokemon.
And some things that should not have been forgotten were lost. History became legend, legend became myth, and for 2,500 years the ring passed out of all knowledge. Until, when chance came, it ensnared a new bearer.
This has happened almost every year since the TV show ended, but somewhere on social media, someone starts a rumor that there's going to be a Friends reunion, that the full cast is going to get back together and do one last special for everyone. A kind of a where are they now type situation. And every year I read it and I'm like, okay, well, let's see if it's true. And then I go to the internet and I scour the internet and it's not true. Well, guess what? This year, it's true. 12 years after going off the air, the cast of Friends is going to reunite on NBC for a 2-hour special. They haven't really revealed what the special is going to be about, but I really think it's going to end up being a where are they now type situation, because spoilers, except it was 12 years ago, so if you haven't seen it by now, you probably don't really care. And it's been on Netflix for like 6 months, so you could watch it all on there. Anyway, so at the end of the TV series, we see them all leave the apartments. Monica and Chandler have bought a house, and everybody's not necessarily going their separate ways, but kind of moving to the next phase of their lives. And Joey got a spin-off show for like a year or two that kind of sucked. So I'm hoping that they'll leave all of that stuff that went on there out. I don't remember anything that happened on it, but it sucked. But the weirdest thing about this reunion is why they're doing it. It's a tribute to the legendary comedy director James Burrow, who he directed some of the episodes of Friends, but it's just kind of weird that to honor him, they're honoring his 1000th directed episode, I believe, which is a feat. Don't get me wrong. I am not downgrading his talent or the fact that he directed 1,000 TV shows. But I just think it's kind of weird that honoring that is what was able to bring all of the cast together. It's kind of interesting, and he must have had a huge, huge impact on all of them. Whether he reinvigorated a career with Courtney Cox or started a career with Jennifer Aniston, or it gave some people a paycheck for 10 years and that they could live on for the rest of their lives because the rest of the cast really isn't doing a whole lot. But he must have had a big impact on their lives, because the only honor show that I could see someone doing with a reunion typically would be honoring someone's entire life. They had passed away and they did this as a remembering type thing, but he's still alive, so they're honoring him while he's still alive. So he must have meant a lot to them.
Barely.
All right, we're about halfway through the show, and I'm going to play a song. The song is called Nonsense, and it is by Jazmyne Fountain.
My mind is going crazy. Can we chill and talk for a while? Sometimes I sit and think about all the stupid, crazy things that could go wrong. 'Cause I just want you to myself, and I don't wanna love no one else. Boy, can you help me? Can you help me out? It's nonsense. Can you help me out? My imagination's going wild. I think what we got is good. Please don't let my thoughts mess this up. 'Cause you are just the perfect one, boy, and I'm gonna give you all my love, boy. Can you help me? Can you help me out? 'Cause you are just the perfect one. I wanna give you all my love. Can you help me out? It's difficult, but it's possible for us to define my down. Give me time, give me love, 'cause we can't let this love die down. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's Because you are just the perfect one, boy, and I'm gonna give you all my love. Can you help me? Can you help me? Yeah, 'cause I just want you to myself, and I don't wanna love no one else. Can you help me? It's nonsense. 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 My mind is going crazy.
Again, that song was called Nonsense, and it was by Jazmyne Fountain. And if you like her and you want to follow her, you can check out all of her information in the show notes.
It's where?
In the show notes! Damn it. PewDiePie is getting a network. That's right, guys. He is the poster child of what internet famous means and is, and he embodies it fully. Earlier this year, YouTube announced that it was partnering with PewDiePie and the producers of The Walking Dead to create a new series called Scare PewDiePie. I mean, that's huge. That is just huge, but he's done it again. Earlier this week, he revealed that he's going to get his own video network called Revel Mode, which will produce original shows by PewDiePie and other people, other YouTube stars and different talents that he chooses, and it's all going to be backed by Maker Studios, which is technically owned by Disney. Their description says that Revel Mode will create everything from one-off videos to original series to gamey games to animatoons, music, clothes, charity drives, and more. Really anything that's awesome in the eyes of the fans. Maker says that the talent PewDiePie has assembled for Revel Mode has over 100 million subscribers combined on YouTube, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The first batch of stars include Cinnamon Toast Ken, Dodger, and Emma Blackery. There's a bunch of others that you can go check out, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see what these creators that have been making such great content on their own are going to be able to do when they combine forces and have the money of Disney and Maker Studios backing them. It's probably going to be so great, this is going to be my life while I watch the videos. Hashtag Oscars so white. The Oscar nominations that were announced last week has brought a hailstorm of backlash because none of the nominees were from any race besides the whiteys. It's gotten so bad, in fact, that Spike Lee and Jada Pinkett Smith are protesting the Oscars by not even coming. A lot of people feel that Idris Elba should have got a Best Actor nomination for Beasts of No Nation. A lot of people think that Straight Outta Compton should have got a Best Picture nomination, and some people think that Concussion should have got some nominations. And the problem is that no matter what side you take on it, the fact of the matter is that when you yell at the Academy or make noise that the Academy is not honoring the diverse culture that's in the movies, that's in Hollywood, you're essentially calling them racist. You're bucketing all of these people, some of which are, I'm sure, not racist, some of which probably are because they're like 97 years old. Not saying that makes it okay, but I mean, that's just the way it is. But you can't accuse all of these people of being racist just because the movies that you wanted that had people of color didn't get nominated. Jumbling them all as racists is just kind of messed up. And a lot of people from the Academy have actually spoken about it. Jeremy Larner, he's a member of the writers branch, which did nominate Compton's writers, although they were all white writers, for Best Original Screenplay, was a civil rights activist in the 1960s, and he actually won an Oscar in 1972's The Candidate. He was quoted as saying, "I cannot prove the Academy or anyone else is not racist. I have voted for many people of color for awards. I happen to think Straight Outta Compton is not a great film for reasons of structure and substance. I can imagine it is a powerful affirmation for those who share the assumption of its music and see it as fans, but to me, a good film has to show a lot more than this one does." Now, this raises the fact that movies that get nominations should be nominated for the quality of the film and not the color of the people that wrote it or acted in it or any of that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there weren't movies that could have been nominated, because I watched Beast of No Nation and I thought Idris Elba was freaking amazing in that movie. But then again, I haven't seen some of the other movies that have been nominated, so I have no palate for those, so I can't compare them honestly. But he brings up another really good point. He says that for the people that are displeased with the noms, they should focus their frustrations on the bigger picture. It is not a time to make enemies among those who would move us further in the direction of fairness, freedom, and justice. There was an incredible number of films in 2015 that were primarily about white people. Talk to the studios about changing that, not the Academy. Now, that is possibly the biggest point that I want to make out of this whole situation. While there were some movies that had people of color in them that they could nominate, the majority of the movies that they had to nominate, that were in the consideration for nominations, were full of white people. Now, I'm not saying that it's not a problem in the Oscars, but maybe it's a bigger problem in Hollywood. You're looking at a group that has to vote on movies that came out within a specific time period that meet certain criteria. They don't make the movies themselves. Well, okay, take that back. The Academy's made up of a lot of writers, directors, blah, blah, blah. But the bigger point is Hollywood needs more diversity too. And I think that this Oscar situation, this hashtag Oscar so white and all this publicity that it's getting and everybody's looking into it now and everybody's focusing on it, I think it would be really great if we could take this opportunity to look at Hollywood as well, because it has to start somewhere, right? You want movies with people of color to be nominated and to win and this and that. Then let's start making really good movies with people of color. People of color have won awards in the past, but in a percentage, they're still not very high when you're looking at Oscar-nominated or Oscar-worthy films. So let's look at Hollywood. Let's ask Hollywood what's going on. I think that if we can fix it in Hollywood first, it will trickle over into the Oscars.
What year is it?
Penthouse is dying. Penthouse is stopping their magazine. They're ending the print edition after 50 years. The publication will continue, but in digital format only, with the parent company Friendfinder Networks saying that the change is necessary to keep Penthouse competitive in the future. We've seen the internet kill the dirty magazine industry. I mean, it's just, there's nothing left. And my personal theory would have been that when Pornhub and RedTube and all these sites, when they were starting to gain some momentum and some steam, Penthouse and Playboy and whoever should have went and bought those websites. I mean, when Pornhub was in its infancy, Playboy could have thrown $1 billion at somebody or $500 million or whatever it would have been worth and said, we want to buy this website. And then they could have left it Pornhub. They could have rebranded it Playboy, blah, blah, whatever, kept the business strategy. And then that would have kept Playboy going on a level that they had not even understood before. It would be like the heyday of the magazine, only a lot more lucrative for them, but they didn't. And the unfortunate fact is that if in the business world, if you don't keep innovating or buying companies that are innovating, you're gonna fizzle out. This is actually not these two magazines, Playboy and Penthouse, aren't the only ones that the internet has killed though. November of last year, UK lad mags, FHM and Zoo announced they were also closing. So we've got 2 magazines in the States and 2 magazines in the UK that are shutting their doors. I don't think it will be long before we see Maxim just stop the magazines. Now, they may still run digital, as with Playboy, because Playboy is now doing the non-nude magazines. I don't even know why they're still printing magazines. Do people even read physical magazines anymore? The only 2 magazines I've purchased in the last decade, I'd say, were Star Wars Special Edition magazines, and that's a little bit different. Everybody reads their magazines digitally now anyway, so just go all digital on everything and shut up and stop trying to make magazines work, because the age of the magazine is dead. In 20 years, you can start a magazine, make it a retro magazine, and sell it to everybody that's 60, because they're going to be like, oh man, these are like the olden days when I was a young whippersnapper. I want to buy this. You can do magazine loot crate style thing, like a box that has a bunch of retro magazines in it, and then you can own both the company that distributes the magazine crate and the company that prints the magazines and makes the magazines, and then you make like a bunch of money for a year or 2, 5 years maybe, and then you take that money and you go do something else with, because magazines just aren't happening. It is not what's up.
Some avocado.
And it's time for an app review. This is actually kind of an app hybrid review because it's not necessarily just an app. It has an app, but you don't even need the app if you really don't want it. What it is it's IFTTT, IFTTT, and it stands for if this, then that. You can go to ifttt.com and sign up with your email address, and what it does is it allows you to create different recipes, and they're almost like life hacks. They're just little things that you can do to make your life easier. So one of the things that I do is I have it tied to my Twitter account, and anytime someone uses a specific hashtag, it puts them into a special list. And then I can go to this list later and look through and, do whatever I want with the list. But the cool thing is I do not have to manually do this list. It just does it automatic. Anytime anybody on Twitter uses that hashtag, throws them into a list. I like that a lot, and it's got some other great uses. So one of the problems I was having was sometimes I would forget to turn my phone on silent when I got to work, but most of the time I was good about doing it when I got to work. But I was terrible at turning my phone on to ring after I left work, and people would call me and text me for like hours, and my phone would be on silent, and finally I'd check my phone and I'd be like, oh, I have 37 missed calls and 4 messages. Like, oops, my bad. So what I did was I downloaded the app, which I think is just called If, and I set up 2 separate recipes. The first recipe was that when my location senses that I'm at work, so when I get to work, the phone will turn the ringtone all the way down to silent. And then the second recipe was when I leave work, the phone will turn the will turn the volume back up to ring. And this has helped me out a lot because now I don't have to remember. It does it automatically and it works really well. I've tested it out and it takes about a minute after I get to work for it to actually register that I'm there and then run the recipe and turn the volume down. But 1 minute, that's not too bad. And by the time I get home from work, my phone volume has definitely turned up because, again, it only takes about a minute on that end as well. It's freaking amazing, and they've got tons of different recipes out there. You can download it if you've got any smart stuff in your home. So if you got a Nest or you've got I can't remember the company that makes it, but the new smart home door locks that you can lock from your phone. You got a garage door opener that has Wi-Fi, whatever, any of that stuff, you can make recipes for it. It's great, easy to use, and it works really well. So as long as you've got an internet connection, Wi-Fi or whatever, then you're going to be good to go.
The Force will be with you, always.
Now I want to give you a few recommendations for some shows that I really personally enjoy. The Mike Jolich Show, classy little podcast, Everyone Has a Podcast, Epic Film Guys, The Quadcast, Now That I'm Older, Podcast Fiend, The World of Roe, and the Pure Orgasmic Love Podcast. These are all a bunch of great shows, and I really think you'll like them, so go check them out.
I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious.
If you enjoyed the show, please show me some love by liking, thumbs up, subscribing, sharing, rating, reviewing, retweeting, or whatever it is that's used to symbolize the love of the show on the platform you're using to view it. You can head on over to justjohnpodcast.wordpress.com/support if you want to get some awesome swag. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyM_Revo or Facebook.com/justjohnpodcast. You can also listen to the show on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and some other shit. You can email me with questions, comments, concerns at justjohnpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, without you, I'm just some dude talking to himself on the internet. Until next time, peace out, fam.